welcome to today's video. My name is Greg Lomason, also known as the Iron Mason, and today we're going over a 12-book haul. I went a little wild, so brace yourselves. The first book we're going to cover is Christopher Paolini, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. I believe this is his first book since the Eragon trilogy. I picked this up from Schuler Books. It's a local bookstore here in Michigan. That is also the bookstore I plan to publish my book with when I get it finished. I'm 23 completed chapters. I just finished 5 later chapters. Really, it's 28 chapters completed. It's a little over 100,000 words. It's going to be like 67 chapters when it's done. Anyway, let's get to it. I picked this book up because I was a fan of the Eragon series growing up. Christopher Paolini made me want a dragon when I was little. I hated what they did with the movie.
Where is it?
Too late. It's hatched.
They did a terrible job with it, but the books fascinated me. And I'm interested to see what Christopher's been up to since his last series that I read. This book was the winner of the Best Science Fiction in the 2020 Goodreads Choice Awards, so I'm hoping it's good. And I am going to read the synopsis of the back, at least the first paragraph, because the price tag is covering the third paragraph. Thank you, Schuler Books. During a routine survey mission on an uncolonized planet, Kira finds an ancient relic. At first, she's delighted, but elation turns to terror when the ancient dust around her begins to move. A war erupts among the stars. Kira is launched into a galaxy-spanning odyssey of discovery and transformation. First contact isn't at all what she imagined. I'm looking forward to this. It's been a while since I stepped into Christopher Paolini's shoes and saw the world through his eyes, or at least a world through his eyes. So we're going to go with that. The next is The Gutter Prayer by Gareth Hanrahan. This is, from what I understand, a trilogy. One of my buddies in my writing group, we have a writing group for authors, looking for more if anybody wants to join. It's a Discord group. He recommended this. He said it was awesome. And I've read about halfway through the book, and from what he told me, it's amazing. It's got magic and golems and goblins and ghouls and humans, and there's a whole bunch going on with like religious factions. And what I'm getting is that it's like there's a war coming with the gods. There were these old gods that have been sealed away, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's the God War. Something to do with gods being killed on a battlefield across the sea, and some of that war leaking into this world. It starts off with a heist. The main character is a thief. She has a past it hasn't been revealed yet, but it's slowly revealing, and it's very interesting. It's very well done. The magic in here is also something I haven't seen before. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's good. I'll read you the back of it. Enter a city of saints and thieves. The city of Gyrden stands eternal, a refuge from the war that rages beyond its borders. But in the ancient tunnels deep beneath its streets, a malevolent power has begun to stir. The fate of the city rests in the hands of 3 thieves. They alone stand against the coming darkness. As conspiracies unfold and secrets are revealed, their friendship will be tested to the limit. If they fail, all will be lost, and the streets of Gyrden will run with blood. I never heard of Gareth Hanrahan before, but so far, from what I've read, I like it. I like it a lot. I hope you guys pick it up. I'll put links down below too. The next one is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This one I have read. I read this in the last few days. This is good. I have issues with the main character. She's a badass. Let's not get it twisted. she is a badass. It's like the sexuality things, man. Like, I'm a guy, I like girls. I just want a love story of a badass chick that has a normal, everyday love story. And I get that kind of seems ignorant, perhaps, of different loves or whatever. Your preference is your preference. Keep it in the comments. But this is actually a really good book. It was a little hard going because of some of the things that happen, but the story pulls you along as war is unfolding within the city. There's a political story going on where it talks about, it's basically based in a city where the children were taken, like Rome. They were taken and given to Rome. It's not Rome in this book, it's called something different, but they're taken and given to Rome. And then when they come back to the land of their forefathers, they're placed in a position to protect the people that they grew up with, not their families who are still there. They have people that they're related to, and cousins and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and moms and dads still there. And they don't know them, but people recognize them. And so there's tension there. And the main character, through self-discovery, becomes entrenched in this war that is brewing. The answers to her questions are locked away in a place that's forbidden, that no one goes to. And as things start to escalate, there's all these different political intrigues and twists and turns that happen, and it's really well done. I would give it probably a 7 out of 8. The writing, there's some writing things I have wrong with it, but overall, it's a very good book, and there are more of these books to come. Okay, the next one I bought was James Islington's Shadow of What Was Lost. This book got me because on the front cover it says, "Do you love the Wheel of Time? This is about to become your new favorite series." And I read a little bit of this already. I didn't finish it yet, but from what I've read, this is like on par with The Thousand Deaths of Ardor Benn. And Tyler Whitesides wrote The Thousand Deaths of Ardor Benn, but James Islington wrote this one. And when it comes to books that I've read that have really expanded my mind recently and gotten me back into really loving the exploration that you go through with books, it was Ardor Benn. That was something I'd never seen before, and it's really good. So far of what I've read of James Islington, The Shadow of What Was Lost, this so far is very similar to Tyler Whitesides in terms of how good the writing is. None of the themes are the same, and even though this compares it to The Wheel of Time, it doesn't necessarily follow that beat for beat. And where Robert Jordan has 30 pages of description and you want to fall asleep.
The Wheel of Time, it's my favorite series. It's so good.
So good, but it's also ridiculously long.
Yeah, it's 14 books, and each book is like 800 pages long.
Wow.
Extremely wordy, but by wordy I don't mean that he writes detailed descriptions of environments. I mean that he uses the same words and phrases over and over again.
Also, so many weird, pointless scenes, like the spankings.
Oh, the spankings.
Spankings? What are you talking about?
You don't want to know.
Is it worth it?
I love it. It's amazing. But it's also terrible.
This doesn't do this. James Islington has deep world building and history building and character building, but it's done in a way with dialogue that makes it engaging and keeps you wanting to read more. It's not just a slough of, here's an information dump, have fun and try to parse through it. No, it's really well written so far from what I've read. The next one is Tad Williams' The Dragonbone Share. I read this series when I was in high school. I think I read at least close to every science fiction book that our school's library had. And they had a lot. I would go to lunch and then I would go to the library right afterward because we had like maybe, 15 to 30 minutes. And at my senior year of high school, I had like an hour or two before my next class because I was taking college classes. So I would literally go into the library and they had this reclining chair and I would read until I fell asleep. And then I would wake up when the bell rang or whatever and go to class. I think I've probably read close to 40,000 books in my life. This is one of those series that brings back like very fond memories of this particular series and the books. I haven't read it yet, but I picked it up because I plan to buy all the series that I read in high school that I fell in love with. This is one of those series. But yeah, this was one of the series that I loved growing up, and I can't wait to get back into it. Let's see. The next one is The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. This is the third in the trilogy. I've read this book already. Once I bought it, I could not read it. It's just a while before I got to do this particular book haul. It's been like a couple weeks, right? I just got some books today, so I figured, you know what? Let's get this knocked out. Golden Enclaves is the third in the series. It is the final of the series, and as I've said about the other two books in Naomi Novik's Scholomance trilogy, hilarious. I do have an issue. So throughout the entire series, there is this romance between the main character and the guy that she loves, right? And throughout the whole series, it's like she loves him, something happens, and then she has sex with this random chick. And it feels haphazard and thrown in there. Perhaps Naomi got pressured by her publicist or whoever to put in some kind of non-heterosexual relationship for a selling point or something. I don't know what it was, what the motivation was, but it was jarring. It was not well thought out. It was off-putting. It's about halfway through that book. I was like, WTF, man. It didn't need to be in the book. I don't know why she put it in the book. It didn't do anything to progress the story. It only hindered the love interest. I don't know what she was doing. The book is great. The way it ends, phenomenal. On to the next one. The second book in the Ardor Benn series is The Shattered Realm of Ardor Benn by Tyler Whiteside. I read the first book. It was phenomenal, fantastic, superb. Again, dragons, magic, time travel, heists, thievery, brutality. The stakes kept going up and up and up and up and up and up in the first book. I had to pick up the second book. I haven't read it yet. I have so many, obviously I have some books that I need to get through. What is this one? I picked this up. I think it's because it got me with the title and the cover. This one is Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. The front of the book says, deliciously inventive, brimming with ancient evils, fallen empires, mysterious technology, and devastating magic. And it probably got me because of that, because the book that I'm writing happens to have things to do with ancient evils, fallen empires, mysterious technology, and devastating magic. It's probably why I picked it up. But let's read the back. Not even the ties of blood will keep them from splitting the world in two. Surrounded by the relics of a dead empire, two siblings, one who wields magic for the empire, and the other who has vowed to bring it all down, will battle for their fate of their world in the first book of this epic new fantasy trilogy by best-selling author Django Wexler. Never heard of Django Wexler before, so halfway through James Islington's books, I realized, again, like Tyler Whiteside's, that this book is going to be something that I'm going to want to read. So I also picked up the second book of James Islington's series, An Echo of Things to Come. Again, this is the series that was compared to Wheel of Time. I'm a huge Robert Jordan fan. The series and those books really, because, number one, I'm a ginger. The main character of those books is a ginger.
You know what I wonder about? The wife I have. How my kids running through these woods just like I do.
Aviendha is a ginger, one of his many wives.
My name is Aviendha, of the Nine Valley Sept of the Ta'adat Aiel. Do you like to dance?
Robert Jordan and the way that he wrote his books changed my perception on love, only insofar as to say that it made me realize that you can love more than one person equally as strong, even if it doesn't necessarily work out with the person you thought it would, you can find that love again. And so that helped me when I was going through a breakup in high school. That helped me come to terms and come to grips with that. The next one is Who Fears Death by Nnedi Okorafor. And I've started reading this one already. This one has to do with I forget what part of Africa, but an African tale. It takes place in Africa, and it talks about some of the traditions and superstitions and the magic of African folklore, and I forget what part of Africa, so forgive me on that. But it talks about it. What really got me about the book is that in the foreword, the person that wrote it talked about them writing it night or day that their father died or their mother died. I forget which one. I think it was their father. And so I had started writing my book very shortly before my father died. But writing the book and having to go through that has helped me explore those emotions in a way that is present but detached. And so being able to read a book at the time and circumstances that are very similar to my own helps me in terms of letting my story come out and being okay with exploring some of those emotions and difficulties that come with going through that experience. And so far, I've read a few chapters of this book. I think I'm on what chapter am I on? Chapter 16, page 100. It's good. It's very good. All right, and the last two of this giant book haul is, number one is The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. I have no idea what to expect from this. I was literally at the bookstore today, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Mark Lawrence, who I have many of his books and his series, said that in the comment, he is a, quote, master storyteller. And I'll read you the back of this. Born into the troubled kingdom of Albermain, Alwyn Scribe is raised as an outlaw. Quick of wit and deft with a blade, Alwyn is content with the freedom of the woods and the companionship of his fellow thieves. But an act of betrayal sets him on a new path, one of blood and vengeance, which eventually leads him to a soldier's life in the king's army. Fighting under the command of Lady Aviendha Corlane, a noblewoman beset by visions of a demonic apocalypse, Alwyn must survive war and the deadly intrigues of the nobility if he hopes to claim his vengeance. And that was enough to get me, because, yeah, who doesn't love that? And the last one is a collection of short stories. This is called The Big Book of Cyberpunk. And much like in my last book haul, where I got the Big Book of Science Fiction and the Big Book of Modern Fantasy, I can't wait to read some of these short stories. During the summer, I have a little bit of time. I'm currently doing a couple research projects, and because of that, I might not be able to get through all the books that I want to. I usually have about 30 minutes to an hour to actually sit down and relax during the summer right now and during school. So I figured I would get the Big Book of Cyberpunk, because the short stories in the Big Book of Science Fiction and the Big Book of Modern Fantasy, they only took me like 30 minutes to an hour to read through. And not to give anything away, but because I am currently writing a book and some of the themes have to do with cyberpunk-ish things, I'm not going to give it away, that, especially the second book, like the second book is going to deal a lot more with those aspects. I figured as a way to do some research and entertain myself and get an idea for kind of what that might look like, figured I'd get these. And this is a collection of the best. According to this, the award-winning anthologist Jared Shurin brings together over 100 stories from more than 25 countries that both establish and subvert the classic cyberpunk tropes and aesthetic, from near-future noir to pulse-pounding action. Urban rebels undermine monolithic corporate overlords. Daring heists are conducted through back alleys and the darkest parts of the online world. There's a dangerous new technology, cybernetic enhancements, scheming AI, corporate mercenaries, improbable weapons, and roguish hackers. These tales examine the near now, extrapolating the most provocative trends into fascinating and plausible futures. And it continues on, we live in an increasingly cyberpunk world packed with complex technologies and globalized social trends, a world so bizarre that even futurists couldn't explain it. Though many authors in this book have come closer than most, as both an introduction to the genre and the perfect compendium for the lifelong fan, the Big Book of Cyberpunk offers 100 ways to understand where we are and where we're going. And I honestly can't wait to read some of these stories. I think it's going to give me a lot of insight and a lot of conceptual things that will help me piece together the parts of the book that include those things. And yeah, that is the book haul for 2024. Perfect time for summer leading into fall. So hopefully you guys get a chance to pick some of these up. The links will be down below. Till next time. Peace.